future president. That's been the hot topic, sort of, eh?
Presidente.
Are you sick of people saying that?
No, I really enjoy it. I mean, I don't ever want to be president, but I like people calling me that a lot.
What is it? So basically, probably the thing that was actually making me laugh is you'd be the first president to vape during the debates.
Or it's usually, I'd like it. I think it's better if it's like a real press conference where I'm like announcing a military action. Where I'm like, I have approved targeted strikes.
Yeah, remember how hard they were going Trump for the way he drank water and stuff? You'd be like, look how he's vaping. You'd be like, he's vaping all week.
We're like, these motherfuckers, they got it coming. All right.
Yeah.
We'll be fine. None of our people are going to die.
Dude, I honestly did get into the drama when you were taking over. Can you explain kind of like layman's terms what happened? Because to me, it was almost like inter-party drama that you kind of like, wow, whatever, that shit always happens. It's like politics. And then, but your thing, it was like, these like younger guys just took over like a political party, and I know you, so it was like, yo, this is crazy.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy for me too, right? Because it was like the Libertarian Party is the third biggest political party in the country, and they're like we're the Libertarians. But then there was this whole group of like people who are Libertarians outside of the party that I kind of was one of, and then started to rise up and be kind of one of the bigger voices in, and then we hated what they were doing with the Libertarian Party. And it's not even just that. They could have just done their own thing and we probably wouldn't have even noticed. But then they started talking shit about all of us. Like the head of the Libertarian Party, the last guy or two guys ago, he started like calling Ron Paul a racist and like all these people who we love.
Yeah.
And so then eventually a few of us were like, you know what? We're just going to take over this party and make it ours. And
we have audiences.
And they were like, okay, sure, you're going to come take our party over. And then we were like, no, we're actually going to do that. And then we all joined and took it over.
Is there any sort of like internal election, like electoral process?
Yeah, there's a whole like dumb, democracy sucks.
Yeah.
But there's a whole process of how you have to go in and register and then vote. But our people were that pissed off and were that willing to be like, no. If there's going to be a third party that calls itself libertarian, they should at least represent what most libertarians believe in, which is not like what was coming out of the LP was like, you must be anti-racist or whatever.
Yeah,
like, no, that's not
mixed up with that.
That's
stuff.
not what we're for. So like, stop tarnishing our name. And yeah, we took the whole thing over. So it's been an interesting thing.
I guess a lot of people will say about the Libertarian Party, it's almost like it's a lot of people that they weren't able to get a seat in the other party, so they'll kind of, it's almost like a career move of like, it's like that guy who be's like a weatherman, but he really wants to work at CNN or something. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of that, but I think what our camp, who just took it over, which is like the Mises Caucus, if people don't know, we are the ones who just like won every seat.
What is that?
And so like
I kind of know generally what it is, but like,
well, it's basically the Ron Paul Libertarians.
Right.
That's kind of like the Libertarians who are like really about like being opposed to like the war, being opposed to wars, being opposed to central banks, being opposed to like crazy government authoritarianism, but not the ones who
and
are
what are the pussy
like,
libertarians?
The pussy libertarians are like, okay, well, we believe in freedom, and so your 6-year-old should have the freedom to be a girl, even if he's a boy. And we're like, no, that's not really what we were about.
They're kind of taking that logical thread.
They're sort of they're just sort of trying to like say the same thing everyone else is saying, but like string together some like freedom logic or something.
They try to almost use it as if like, well, our philosophy is about like liberation from all abstract constraints, like your dad's a dick or whatever. You're like, no, that's not like what we're about. What we're about is like this real shit that we think actually matters. And so there were a lot of people like that who were like, okay, well, they can't win as a Republican or a Democrat anymore, so maybe they'll come over to the Libertarian Party. But I think our thing is much more like, no, we really don't believe in what those people believe in.
Yeah, and
so
you see what you see through them
thing.
when they're trying to pull that shit, where they're trying to be like, we're coming over, and you're like, I don't know. Like,
well, even like...
Well, they had a stronghold on it, sort of, right?
For a while. People were even saying to me, like, recently, because Tulsi Gabbard just left the Democrats, and they're like, oh, she should come over to the Libertarians. Don't you want her to come over? And I'm like, if she's one of us, like if she were to fucking reach out to me and be like, hey, I've been reading about the shit you guys believe in and I believe in that now, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely, come over. But if not,
not
then
just
no.
Go to fucking Yang's.
Yeah, I'm not just trying to get like the most popular fucking person I can get.
It kind of sort of does Yeah, because you're right. You want to have that thing where the thing you're saying is almost bigger than the people. The people could switch to someone else, you know?
Well, the point of like, if you have like a third party that's like, well, look, this is what we believe. The point isn't that you're like, obviously right now, it's not like, oh, we're going to win. The Libertarians are going to get 51% of the population and we're going to be the fucking, but the point is,
imagine that. You're like, no, that's crazy. All right.
Man, if that happens, I'm going to look like an asshole after all this. I'll be like,
when you're the
president, like, no, you win. And you're like, shit.
Yeah, that's your speech. You're like, pretty wild, right?
Dude, my wife's going to be like Melania, but who speaks fluent English. And she's just going to be like, I didn't fucking agree to this shit, okay?
You would be. That is, I mean, sorry, let me just finish your thing. Yeah,
well, no, I'm just saying, but the thing is, if you have a little group, right, like a third party, and not a small third party, like the Libertarians, compared to the Democrats and Republicans, are small, but they get millions of votes for their presidential candidates. And there's like a lot of power in that. And that's kind of like the idea of like taking over that party, that it's like you can kind of use that in a way where, so if there's like, let's say you're polling at 3% in a statewide Senate race, but the Republican is losing by 2%. Like your 3% all of a sudden is a big deal.
If you
and
can
then
get them to,
and then you could be like, hey, if you guys run Lindsey Graham, we're going to ruin it for you so you can't win. But if you run Rand Paul, we'll let you win. And so now, even though you're only polling at 3%, you could have a huge impact on that. So that's kind of the idea, is like people who actually care about like moving things in a better direction and just being like, yeah, you know, we don't want to be a fucking country that fights fucking dumb wars and a country that spends ourselves into debt. I don't know. I just want to have like a good society for my kids to grow up in. And things are getting pretty weird. I just want everyone to have a skank fest where they can grow up. I want my kids to have a skank fest of their own one day.
Skank fest is a basic human right.
His official platform.
But it is.
Skank fest for all.
You know what? I felt like the one thing that like a lot of people that lose, unless they're, you know, super saying all the exact like industry stuff, it's almost like if you want to say anything interesting, and it's not just in politics, but in like entertainment, if you want to be a podcast, if you want to do anything interesting in any sort of cultural space, you have to be okay with a lot of people saying bad things about you.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many people are so afraid of that it just, they'll lose or no one will care. Whereas like kind of even what you're saying, like even if let's say you were saying something about like guns and they're like, well, some kids are going to die. And then a lot of people will kind of be like, well, not really either. And you're just like, yes, that is correct. Some kids might die because of this. Yes, it's not all positive what I'm saying. Everything has, and I think you said like owning the negative parts of your arguments, because everything has like a negative part and they try to pretend they don't exist. You're like, it's like when, last part of this is like when they say inflation or whatever and you go, well, jobs will go down a little bit, and they go, no, they won't. You go, okay, they will. Just admit that and own it.
I remember hearing when
that make sense?
Yes, completely. I remember when Biden was running for president, they did a debate. It was like the first post-COVID debate. Right after the lockdowns happened, and it was him and Bernie Sanders. And I think Bernie had just had a heart attack. Like they were wheeling Bernie Sanders out there to like, and I don't know if you remember this, but they did like a debate. It was just the two of them, and they were like socially distanced. Like we were all in the height, like the first 2 weeks of lockdowns, and then they were like, well, we have a presidential debate, so here's what we'll do. And like the studio was like everyone was like set up, and they were like way far away on the podium.
Yeah, I do remember this. I think,
and I remember Biden's thing is he looked into the camera. And he went, look, if you elect me, I promise everyone will be made whole. Like, whatever money you lost from this lockdown, you'll get that money back. Whatever this cost you, we will get. And it was like, that, like, to me was like the perfect, like, encapsulation of what politics today is.
Yeah.
Is because we're locking down the country. And let me just tell you, this will cost you nothing.
And then you're like
there will be no costs associated with shutting everything down. And you're like, what like adult is supposed to believe this? Like, how could anyone look at that and go, there will be no external costs of any of this?
Well, it's because nobody asked them. You go, how?
But but it's connected to what you said, where you're like, if you ever tell the truth, we're now in a world where you'll be beat by anyone who's
Sure.
like, but there's a problem with the truth.
And you go, yes,
know?
that's correct.
I remember being my sister's real smart, and she's a college professor at a really good fucking university, and she's very, very smart.
Bragger you.
But bragger you, and she's almost has tenure. But her politics are not good. But she's a great person, and she's very smart. But all her friends are college professors. And I was at my sister's house. And I'm at my sister's house, my wife, at my sister's house, and my sister, and my brother-in-law, and like my family, and her friends, who are all college professors. And we had dinner.
You and a bunch of college professors.
Yeah.
Your wife's probably
Shit
like,
got
Dave,
real.
Dave, this one dinner.
Enjoy your veal. Then I'm like, I would put a fucking
You get hand you the jewel like a pacifier. Just be like, just Dave.
We're like, okay. No, but we're in the living room. We're having a drink after dinner, and there's this guy who's a college professor, and this motherfucker is brilliant. Like I've talked to him a bunch. He was like a fucking expert in like the history of China, and he like fucking lived in China for years. And he's teaching me all this fucking shit. Like it's just really, really smart. But I remember we're in her living room having drinks, and he like kind of leaned in at one point, and he goes, I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. I actually agree with a lot of your politics. And I was like,
And what are you doing?
why are you whispering, motherfucker? Like, we're in my sister's living room.
Yeah.
Like, you're safe. Just talk to me like a fucking normal
like
person.
KGB
like,
shit.
even there. Yeah, but isn't that, it's almost like
really
we live in
like
North
Russia.
Korea. Like, he was
Yeah.
like worried that one of the other people there might hear him.
Well, that'll get
And he has
around
to-
the school, and
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Yo, you know what? He's
But-
like
but
not
he
what he
is.
seems."
He might be right that like.
Yeah, he's like, I'm saying something that could ruin me, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you.
Did I hear your podcast is entertaining?
Yeah, like, dude, I actually fucking think you make a lot of sense. Yeah, like, dude, but it's a weird thing where you're like, yeah, oh, I get it. Like, a lot of people, even people who are really fucking smart and really know their shit, are just not built for that. They're not built for, and this is why through COVID, so many people were fucking scared to like come out. Even really smart people who knew what was up, they're scared to come out because a lot of people like respond to social psychology cues. And if everyone's gonna call you a fucking like really mean name, they're like, I'm not ready for that.
Sure.
And then you have the occasional person like the Alex Berenson who's like, I love the idea of that.
Yeah.
Fucking call me a
Yeah, I
Nazi,
can't wait.
please.
Sure.